Hi everyone, welcome at the last webinar of the Agile Project Management in Technical Writing series, delivered to you by SOAP Technical Communication and 3DI Poland. My name is Gosia Radymiak, and together with me today is Paweł Kowaluk, Technical Director at 3DI, who will tell us about how to deal with multiple technical writing projects in one Scrum team today. Very quickly, three items I need to share with you. First of all, you guys are muted during this webinar, but you can ask questions on the live chat on YouTube. This webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it again on our channel. And well, basically, this is the last part, so we'll make sure to post the whole list of the series so that you can watch all the 4 parts. Okay, that's everything on my side. Paweł, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gosia. Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here. It's been a good series of webinars. I've really enjoyed preparing them, and it made me think about how we do things at 3DI, and how and which pieces of information could be useful to people outside. So I usually start these by saying we're a technical services company, meaning we write for other companies, which is not a very typical situation for most of you, probably. A lot of people are going to work at internal teams, but there are many concepts which are transferable. And my kind of thought for this last piece is also that even if you're working at an internal team, you may want to adopt a way of thinking that is similar to ours. Kind of like think of yourself as an external partner, as an external team, delivering projects to a client, and just treat your your internal product teams as if they were separate companies. It's a good way of thinking because it makes you think in budgets, it makes you think in discrete chunks, and it focuses on quality and on the audience. And focusing on the audience, focusing on quality, and thinking in discrete chunks are the basis of an agile technical writing project, in my opinion. Okay, so let's dive into this topic of handling multiple projects within one team. Now, it's typical not only for a services company, but also for internal teams within a company to be supporting multiple products, for example. And each of these products have different ranges of features, different applications, and different audiences. For example, if you're working at a networking company, you could be selling routers and switches, which are all different, but also servers and racking solutions and applications. All of these would be different and have different audiences, so they would, in effect, be treated as different projects. And if you don't have single sourcing, they could even be using different technologies. You could be creating your PDF guides in Word or FrameMaker or something, and then creating some online content in Markdown, or maybe using data for some pieces and Flare or RoboHelp for some other pieces. So there's many ways in which you could be working on multiple projects within one team. So the thing boils down to people sitting in the same room and working in the same, meeting in the same Scrum meetings are not going to be working on the same projects. And this is the situation at 3DI, where we support multiple clients and customers and multiple projects at the same time. Okay, so let's imagine that there are 4 projects, and these are actual real life projects called A, B, C, D. I don't know why. It's a coincidence that our customers call their projects A, B, C, and D. They are color-coded for your convenience. So let's imagine a typical Scrum meeting, and in one of the previous webinars, I outlined how we work and how we meet, and how we plan our work, and what role the Scrum meetings play. But as a quick reminder, a Scrum meeting is a daily meeting where you tell everyone what you did yesterday and what you're going to be doing today. And you do this so that you can share knowledge and find support. And also, it creates a shared sense of responsibility for for all the projects that you're working on, and it's actually quite peculiar to be doing this for multiple projects, because if you go by the book, the Scrum or the Kanban or whatever, you're usually working on one project, and your iteration is going towards one clear-cut deliverable, like an application if you're a software developer, or a manual if you're a technical author. But in this case, we're talking about one team, multiple projects. And so the most obvious thing to do, and also the biggest mistake, in my opinion, would be to just present the backlog of all the projects on the board and have people pick up whatever they want, because for some the green project looks interesting, for some the purple one looks interesting. They're going to focus on one project, and they're going to want to continue with this single project until they finish. It's a natural and effective way of working, but it doesn't take into account the priorities and the deadlines, and it's not a planned way of working. So that's why we need to do some analysis, split those projects up, and apply a more complex approach. Let me try and walk you through this. Okay, so we're going to be looking at a single project has its deadline sometime, and we don't want everybody working on the same project in some cases, because sometimes we have to get started on other projects in the meantime. And also, not everybody is suitable for all the projects. Okay, let's break it down and look at the projects first. Each project is different, right? It's going to have its own kind of quirks and requirements. So a typical example for a company like 3DI would be, say you're writing for a piece of equipment like a dishwasher. It's going to be a manual. It's going to be a 20-day project. That's how you estimated it. That's how you're building your customer. Then you're also creating a software, an online hub for a piece of software, which is a quick 5-day project. There's an Internet of Things website that you're preparing, which is a 12-day job. And then there's a machinery manual for like a factory that produces lawnmowers or a huge industrial furnaces or something. And it's a huge project. It takes 32 days. Okay, so, and they all have different deadlines. And there's going to be a different burn down for each of these, because some are quicker to do, some are slower. For some, the SMEs are going to be more responsive and you're going to need less lead time. For others, it's going to be a struggle to have them, to fit them into the deadline. And you'll have to finish them all in parallel. So let's look at our team now. We have Nigel, who's got 2 years experience. This is important when you're assigning people to projects to match their skill level. And for a company like 3DI, it's important that experienced people set up and start work on new customers, because it's harder getting a new customer, and it's also it's more critical to your success if you can get a new customer and retain the new customer for a long time. Then you're going to have a good time, basically. And then you're going to be using your more junior people to maintain long-term projects or work as the second person on the project, third person, etc. Somebody who's supporting the team. Somebody, if there's enough people on this single project, that they can get guidance and give guidance to the junior person, to the newcomer. And then Nigel hates machines, so the machinery project D, is not very good for Nigel. Now this is, of course, it doesn't matter what they prefer, but Nigel hates machines in the sense that he's never written for a machinery project, and he doesn't have the necessary technical acumen to get into that right now. It wouldn't be as quick for Nigel as it would be for some other team members. So maybe we should choose someone else over Nigel to work on this project. And then you go through your team and you look at each individual in the same way, finding their strong sides and preferences, and then seeing and seniority, and seeing where they can work. Okay, so then we know that Nigel is great for projects A, B, and C, and we look at the schedule for these projects, and we know that project A is urgent and is happening now, so Nigel should be working on it. So he'll spend all day Monday and half the day on Tuesday working on this project. But also on Tuesday and Wednesday, he should focus on analyzing his tasks from project B and start sending questions to SMEs, or requests for materials, access to applications, etc. Because even though he's not going to be working on this project anymore, it's good to set these things up, and it's going to take a few days for people to come back to him. So he has the rest of the weekend, whatever happens next week, he has some time waiting for the input. Then he goes back to working on project A. Now it's best to keep projects in chunks. So you keep working on the same project for a couple of days, because you get into the rhythm, and it's not good to intersperse and mix tasks too much in a day of work. And then on Friday, Nigel can get some work done on project C. So you plan work for all the other people. For example, Nigel is going to be joining project C because we can see that the second writer, Monica starts work on Wednesday, and she's going to be working on project C throughout the week. So Nigel is going to join on Friday. And then we have Robert, who's working on project D. He's the machinery specialist, a lot of experience, a very technical guy, engineer. He knows about micro transistors and things like that. So he can really focus on that. And he's going to be our go-to guy for project D. Now, the problem with this schedule is that if Robert gets sick, project D is stuck because there's nobody else who's working on it, nobody else who knows what the project is all about. But hey, I cannot promise you to solve all the problems, but I can point to them. I can show you where they are. Okay, so then our Scrum meeting on Monday is going to be 2 people working on project A and 1 person working on project D, or 2 people working on black, 1 person working on orange. So they know which backlogs they're picking tasks from, right? So they're not picking from just any old backlog, but those specific ones. Now in the Scrum meeting, they can learn things which are going to be useful, like somebody did some research on the tasks that they are picking up, or someone is going on holiday, and they're going to be hard to reach. So if you want to do stuff together, you have to do it now. It also builds a sense of belonging to a team, even if you're the sole person working on project D. People may be interested. Hey, so how's the project going with all the big machines? And you tell them a little story, and they're like, yeah, that's fun, but let's not talk about it in the Scrum meeting. But it's still you're part of the team. So each day we do the same. We look at different backlogs depending on what we're working on a given day. And this approach is going to help us figure out ways to do work on time. So you look at where the deadline is, and then you can figure out your daily schedule of who's working on what. And it's going to help us achieve high quality, because, like I said, you are devoting work to a particular project for a chunk of time. You're also working in a broader team that can share experiences, and you are working in the context where practices are shared. Your colleagues, even if they are not working on the same project, can do QA for you, can do proofreading for you. Proofreading is the same even if you don't know the subject matter, more or less ish, right? And you are focusing on your audience from the sheer fact that you know that you're on a separate project, and you have to distinguish between what last week and what your colleagues are doing right now, etc. It puts things into perspective. And finally, this is what we all want. We want happy technical writers. Working in a chaotic storm of tasks from multiple backlogs would be kind of unbearable. So putting everything into a schedule which tells you day by day what projects you're working on today removes this chaotic element from the project and from your life. And a happy technical writer is a is a productive technical writer. If happiness alone doesn't convince you, maybe money will. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys for today. Are there any questions?
Hey, Paweł, so far there are no questions in the chat, but I have a question. You
Sure.
mentioned that when technical writers know what they're going to work on day by day, so they're informed about it day by day. This is kind of a short notice when you take a look at it from the perspective of planning. Do you also do like sprint planning, for example, for the next 2 weeks, so that your technical writers have this broad perspective for a 2-week or a shorter or longer, but not a daily perspective on the projects they work
Yeah,
on?
that's a very good question, Gosha. And I forgot to mention that the planning is done ahead and sometimes way ahead. Sometimes it's going to be more than a month, like a couple of months, 3 months, 6 months, that you're going to know more or less what the people are going to be working on. So they can always see and anticipate, and it's going to be dynamic and it's going to change. But at 3DI, we all have access to all the planning sheets, and we can look, December, January, February, March. I think we're up to June with certain projects already being penciled in, and we know when they're going to be.
Okay, so this is yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so they don't find out day by day what they're going to be working. They can see a longer perspective. Yeah.
Okay, we have still no more questions. So I guess we're wrapping up. Thank you, Paweł, for the whole series and for today. And thank you for sharing us with the experience of 3DI. Hopefully, we'll be able to deliver more webinars in the future. And for everyone who attended, thanks, and hope to see you during our next webinars.
Yep. Thank you, Gosha, and thank you everyone for participating. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm pretty easy to find on social media, and you can also post your questions under this video, and somebody will pick them up and answer. Again, thank you very much for allowing me to be here, Gosha. I'm looking forward to working more with SOAP in the future.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye, guys.